Okay, day 65, still no Eric Braverman, Neil Brown, or Mark Turi. Couple of different developments on this scale. First of all, I'm going to ask the question today. I've been putting Braverman finding out about the Clinton Foundation right around here after the Porton Down Ghouta sarin gas attack. And that kind of was maybe the last straw. But there's a couple of other pieces of evidence that have come to light here that maybe says that Braverman was a part of the plan the whole way, and he's step 0.5. 0.5 would be creating this funnel to process all these country topples, and this is called IHRC. Now, there's a plan you'll see down below. Wesley Clark talks about it. The plan to topple, it started in 2003, to topple 7 nations in 5 years, and it was called the Mid-East Project. This started with George Bush before Hillary, and this is just a continuation. Libya and Syria are just, these steps are just the middle pieces to this 7 country swing. And I've said this before in earlier emails, but I found this gentleman on the internet saying a lot of the same things I was saying. I just found him two weeks ago. His name's Engdahl. He's absolutely a genius. He's way smarter than me, but he's written all these books about it, I found out, and he's quite respected among oil players, people in the oil business, as having the real story as far as the oil business. But he confirms this. He confirms it's all oil. It's all about the arms to take the oil. So what I'm not going to do from now on is do any more recaps. If you want to start the series, I realize it's hard to follow if you just drop in on day 65. Go back to 53 and just watch the episodes forward, or pick at least 60. I think that's where I stopped doing the summaries. But what I'm going to start doing is just in red, it's going to be the same slides, but I'm just going to be doing the updates as we're doing research across the board, okay? And that will help people who are already, have invested time in and who are contributors. So one of the things that I wanted to show here is that this kind of goes back 20 years, and this toppling of governments and then taking the resources. And this goes all the way back when Hillary had an office in the West Wing when Bill Clinton was president, and she kind of bonded with NATO, and NATO was running this thing called OPTOR. So this is a group that supposedly does peaceful rebellions. So OPTOR is a Serbian organization, very ruthless, actually. Slobodan Milosevic was one of their guys. And the idea is create chaos, and then we'll bring NATO in to take over the resources. It's going to tie into Chandelon here in a minute. But they were very instrumental in toppling Egypt, and I put some videos down below that actually show how directly involved they were, and the people in Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt said they were. And then what happened is they just took the guys from Egypt that they trained and just took Libya. So you're going to see that connection to NATO. So today is when I bring the NATO connection in, and I think you're going to see that all this Middle East project is really basically the 20 years ago NATO project for breaking up Yugoslavia. These 7 countries here is going to be very much like the breakup of Bosnia and Kosovo, all the other satellites that broke off of Yugoslavia. So the question is Braverman inserted by someone to limit Hillary's power? Now, he is extremely good friends with Kissinger. So one of the theories here is that Kissinger is able to insert someone in the process here to kind of, I'm not saying infiltrate, but just check Hillary's power so she doesn't get too all-powerful, the same way WikiLeaks kind of checked George Bush's power with the collateral murder video. So that's the question I'm going to leave out here. But the big new idea here is the Middle East project, okay? And we're going to keep following the rat lines and the sarin gas and the arms and the oil. Okay, so I developed this idea yesterday of this oil construction and luxury hotel company, which is the largest one in Middle East, having interest in Haiti, Libya, and Syria. But I believe that they're actually the preferred construction company for Iraq, Lebanon, Sudan, Yemen, and Iran. And those were all the additional countries in the 7 that were going to be toppled. I showed yesterday how the Human Rights Organization for Syria, SOHR, is actually an oil construction company owned here by his dad. And I showed how the PR firm for the white helmets, supposedly saviors of Syria, is actually backed by an oil billionaire that does pipeline architecture, construction architecture. Here you can see a project they did together. So I'm developing this out now and saying not just Haiti, not just Libya, not just Syria, but all these countries they're going to be involved in. And they've been involved, as you can see, in Kuwait and many other countries. So this is the vehicle. Here I had them drop into Haiti to use World Bank loans to develop, this is an LNG port, develop roads along here and so forth. Now you may hear a little bit of disruption in the background, so I don't know where that's coming from. But anyway, the big idea I'm going to develop here in Haiti is this IHRC funnel is actually the Middle East project funnel. It's where all the money is going to come from the Middle East and North Africa and be funneled through Haiti. It's kind of a bait and switch. It's kind of divert. And I still believe this gold mine, you can generate any kind of revenues you want from the gold mine. You can say this 100 billion all came from the gold mine, because you're going to get a question. If I put 200 billion through here in these banks, where did it come from? You have to have a cover story. That's why I think, he's, it's a one-page website and so forth. If you look at the gold, it's actually like dirt. They call it invisible gold. So that I'm going to just keep that working theory going. Now, the other one down here is the cell phone business, and how the cell phone business, and when you put a microfinancing application on it, it could enable a prostitution ring and even a sex trafficking ring. And Carlos Slim, it turns out, not only does the Mexican phone system, which is one of the highest priced phone cell services in the world, but he also does microloans to Afghanistan. And it's going to be microloans to Pakistan. And then there's a guy in India that does microloans on their cell phones. So we're going to keep an eye on this, because you're going to keep seeing this. He's the kind of the telephone layer. This is the construction layer, the roads layer, and this is kind of the telephone layer. But wherever Bill Clinton goes, you can always hear him say, this could be the first wireless nation. This could be the first wireless nation. Everywhere they topple, making sure that Carlos Slim is a part of it all, or Digicel, which is O'Brien. So that keeps recurring over and over. So, and again, Hillary's checkbook, she wrote the check for the $6 billion for Braverman's proposals. Another fact that could mean that Braverman was in on it, in on IHRC before this all started, before all the invasion started. So I'll have more information on that. I don't know the answer, so I'm learning with everyone else. I'm going to just add another little detail. So I'm using red here to just add details. I'm not going to go over the whole slide again. But Mark Rich admitted to taking cartel money. Specifically, they were shipments from the Dominican Republic to Spain, where he lived. He lived in Spain. He took that cartel money, bought Gaddafi oil, and put it in HSBC. So we're going one level down in detail now. Now, Hillary, at the same time this was going on, was making friends in the State Department with Patrick Kennedy. In 1993, she was trying to curry favor with ambassadors to get them buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Patrick Kennedy lives very close to Arlington National Cemetery. So in the West Wing, when Bill's president, she's already making these machinations toward not only the State Department, but also to Morell. I'm not going to put him here because there's too many pictures on here already, but to Morell and the CIA. And I actually believe that the Petraeus-Morell connection goes all the way back to 1993 in Somalia, where they used Stingers to shoot down Black Hawk helicopters. I'll develop that out later. I have evidence to point in that direction. Again, read the connections down here. And I also believe that beginning in 1993, when this 10-year case gets dropped against Bill Clinton, against Mark Rich, that Hillary begins working with James Comey and this gentleman, even though he's going to be a lawyer in a Midwest lawyer, on a surveillance system, a much greater surveillance system, taking the DEA capability that they had at that time with wiretaps and moving that gradually toward cell phones. And I know you're going to say, okay, Comey was at the, side of Ashcroft and made the big thing. Comey, his covers look like, conversations with a heart. He loves to, show his big heart. He's the kind of I can't remember which one in the Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man. Yeah, he's always got to show his heart, and that's his cover. But in actual fact, you'll find that he keeps putting in things to add police powers. And then as he moves around to different Hillary stops, different Hillary donation points, like he moves to Lockheed, then he moves to Bridgewater, and then he moves over to forgetting the next stop, HSBC. There's an inside guy all along the way, doing the police powers. Like, for instance, when he drops the case, the 2003 investigation of these two guys, Kadzik almost thought he was going to get arrested. So he fled to Los Angeles, and they had to bring him back to the trial. He gets made to be the district attorney general. As soon as he gets let off with this $140 million fine, Comey, with a quid pro quo, becomes deputy attorney general. Kadzik, again, believe it or not, is the guy doing the Huma case and the guy doing the Hillary case, as is McCabe. So this is quite incestuous. So, and of course, 93, Podesta starts working with Hillary. Hillary doesn't get him into the White House until 96. So there's going to be an interesting 3 years here. I'll just let that sit out there for right now. You've seen this slide before. I just wanted to say that this is the Middle East Project, and David Petraeus is the author of those 7 plans, those 7 topples that Wesley Clark's going to talk about down in the thing. David Petraeus is the author, and Mike Morrell is the henchman that conducts all these sarin gas attacks and so forth. And they're basically just stepping up the Stinger. It was going to be just Stingers to take out other air forces, but they've stepped up the plans now with the sarin gas. And that, of course, ends in the death. And I'm saying right here today, I believe, I have enough evidence to believe that Petraeus and Morrell killed Chris Stevens. So this, again, that professor that I found, Engdahl, that you're going to find his link down below. He covers a whole thing on Syrian oil. I just found it today, and I couldn't believe how accurate it was, or how accurate I've been. That's nice to find somebody saying all the things that you're saying, and he's just coming out with a book that's saying this. But there's a company called Genie Energy. Oh, where am I? Okay. Genie Energy, just north of Israel, that's found a huge gas supply right off in the Golan Heights, which is the area between Syria and Israel. So the cast of characters is the same old cast of characters, the Halliburton cast of characters, with Dick Cheney, Rupert Murdoch, who was Mark Rich's partner, Larry Summers, the guy who did the Facebook thing, CIA thing with the Facebook, James Woolsey, who was the CIA director. It's like almost like a Batman, with a penguin and all that. So anyway, all I wanted to say on this one was that there's that reference to Engdahl, so you should watch that. There's also a thing on Optor, which is the Serbian group that's doing all these topples, that's training the Muslim Brotherhood for all these topples, and that's very interesting to see. Again, this is Neil Brown's pipeline. This is all Kissinger, Neil Brown. So I'm going to just finish it off here. This is, you keep seeing these slides, and the reason why I do that is it's hard to introduce all the information at once. But this is your group now, the Beacon group that's been outsourced. This is where those 7 topples are still in play. Hillary can still run the topples, even though the cover is I'm a professor in New York. Morrell still has friends and still can work through Optor, which is a creation of his, and he can still run these. With General Grange, he can still run these topples of these 7 countries. So nothing has changed. They ran this topple, the Libya and Syria topples, outside of the government. Why couldn't they run the other topples? They've got all that extra Gaddafi cash now. That's the point I wanted to make. So I know I'm running long here, but everyone wants to know the Chandelier connection. So that's this is where we require you watching the video of Optor. I think I misspelled that. It should be Optor, Optor. He's the guy who funded Optor. And this goes all the way back to Kosovo, Bosnia first, then Kosovo, all the other ones that I can't remember all the names right now, Herzegovina, and then there's Montenegro and all the other for the breakup. So this goes all the way back. And that's why this F-35 thing is basically a group of people that were involved in the breakup of Yugoslavia with those air campaigns. Now they're all the generals, and that's where the F-35 comes in. And to prove that, the guy who ran this air campaign is running the F-35 program at Lockheed. Comey goes from Lockheed, 5 years there to get all the contractors. He gets all the contractors. He takes them to Bridgewater. From Bridgewater, he goes to SBC to get the money. That's all for today. I'll develop more as I get more time.